this next guest is very special. I think we have spammed Twitter a good 10, 11 times just to get him on this show. Not only is he a great hacker, he's also a great friend. He's been a great person to hang out with, hack with, play games, get toxic on Rainbow Six with. But I want to pick his brain, hear his story. I think we have some really cool story that we can talk about with our collaboration and some other fun that we have had so far. So I am going to bring on our guest, Ziot. And to be very clear, he has been one of the most requested guests on this stream. So let's bring him on. Chat, give it up for Ziot. And let's hope this doesn't fail. What's up, sir?
Yo, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
Just sweating a bit, but I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you, man. I feel like you and I have had some really, really good hacking sessions together, and with our collaboration and like the aspect of how our skill sets fit, I think a lot of people will have a lot to learn from it. But before we get into this, I want to hear from for people that don't know who you are for some god awful reason, even though we have spammed you a bunch of fucking times on Twitter. Tell me who you are, what do you do, and how long have you been doing bug bounties for?
Sure, yeah. My name's Brett Deerhouse. I go by Ziot. I'm 32 years old. I started doing programming and security when I was 12-ish, so it's been about 20 years.
Yeah.
But I would say, I've taken it more seriously around 14 years now. I've been doing it professionally at a video game company for about 10 years now.
Nice.
Big gamer, big on bug bounty, big on programming, just all the things.
How long have you been doing bug bounties for?
It's got to be about 6 or 7 years now. It's been a while.
2014, right? Ish. 13, 14.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. How did you hear about bug bounties?
How did I hear about them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first started working, I'll just say the company I started working at Blizzard. I was on like an experimental QA team that focused on finding security vulnerabilities in video games, not really on the web side. But when I got there, in my off time, since I had so much experience doing web already, I just started hitting the websites internally. I think after the first year, I had like 100 vulnerabilities logged in our like internal tracker.
Wow. Okay.
And my manager was just like, "Hey man, I was reading about Facebook having like a white hat program where they pay you for vulns. You should check it out." So that was like the first time I heard about it. It wasn't even HackerOne initially. It was just the Facebook program.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that the OG people, either was Facebook, it was Google, or it was when Yahoo was doing their own bug bounty program off platform. I know that's how Nafi and all them got into it. I remember seeing his name a lot on there. Um, so you hear about bug bounties, and then what? Did you look at Facebook's bug bounty program?
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge for me. My manager was the one who sent it to me, so I was like, "All right, I got to show him I can do it, right?" And
Right.
there's like a bit of curiosity to you know, the old school days of hacking. It wasn't bug bounty. You didn't have approval. Maybe you'd poke a company that you liked and you would send them an email and hope that they didn't like respond with lawyers.
Yeah.
So this was like the interesting, like, they want me to hack on them. They're like one of the biggest websites in the world right now. They probably have stellar security. Let's just check it out and see what happens. And
So
honestly, I didn't have any luck for like a month.
I'm curious to hear. So you've been programming since you were young. You were a kid. Um, when did hacking come into play? Like, what made you go from whatever you were doing at that age? Because like 12, 13 is a lot of the hackers that I talk to, a lot of the good hackers that I talk to, the 12, 13 is the curiosity years when you go, how does this
Yeah.
work, right? You get into hacking, but I want to know what got you to go, what's this hacking thing people are talking about? Like, how did you hear about hacking at that age?
Yeah, sure. It was a little bit of gaming. Like I was really into like EverQuest at the time, MMO. And I was
Okay.
really curious to see people posting like exploits. People were building emulators for it at the time, like open source emulation of like an MMO server. I didn't like, I was building little websites on like Angel Fire, like HTML and JavaScript were blowing my mind. And now all of a sudden it's like, they're emulating, the server for a video game, the networking, the database, just open source like C++. And that like blew my mind. Like I really dug into that. And I never really like contributed, but just being involved in those communities, like you just kind of pick up on things like how a database works, the queries and whatnot. The other side of it was just hosting websites. Back in the day, like your big CMS or just like software that people use on websites, you'll see like WordPress, right? Here and
Yeah.
there. A lot of homegrown websites nowadays or frameworks, but way back in the day, I mean, if you weren't using like GeoCities or AngelFire or whatever, I mean, you were hosting like a VPOL
PHP nuke.
or yeah, PHP Nuke, Open Nuke, PHP BB, like the forums.
Yeah.
So I'd host forums here and there. I think one of my forums got popped. Then I started learning about security patches, applying them, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how are people finding these things? And you sent me some of these questions a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking about it. There was a guy way back in the day. I don't know if he's still around. Haven't heard his name in a long time. His name was Warax, and he found like a lot of like the crits back in the day on the open source forums.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I want to find something that like he's finding. How does he do this? So I sat down, and I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, I had like found my own crit on one of the forums.
Wow. I think so you had somebody who was doing these things and you just kind of wanted to do a similar thing to this person that was finding phones on open source
Yeah,
projects. Yeah, I have this. I think I don't know if I said it. Was it Argod who was big on Melworm? Who was doing a lot of cool phones. I have a similar story. Is his name was Argod. There was rumors that he passed, whatever it was, but I definitely could relate to that. How did you get good at web? How did you? So was that how you were just like, okay, how are people finding these phones on these open source projects? I want to go do it. What was the next step?
yeah, I think it's just a process over the years, right? Like you just start hacking on websites and software. You just like you learn a little bit about XSS or CSRF, SQL injection. You pick up these little things here and there, and it just builds up over time.
Yeah,
I'd say like prior to doing security professionally, it was a lot of just SQL injection, that's interesting. I've worked with databases and queries a little bit, but how are people exploiting it? Then you like you said, like Millworm, there's all of those like kind of like the underground sites where it's like they have these little cheat sheets or text files.
yeah,
You're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you work off of those, and then maybe you run into like a website or a scenario where it's like, this cheat sheet's not helping me anymore. Like I kind of have to go off the grid, off the path, deviate a little bit and kind of like invent my own thing or just kind of like figure it out on my own. Um, so I think there's a lot of just kind of learning on my own back in the day because, we didn't really have the same resources that are available nowadays.
yeah. There were. I mean, I think my as a kid, Hack the Site was one of the only places where you could actually go and do something that was similar to the real world. They had CSRF stuff in there. There was some XSS exploiting. There was some quote unquote missions that would give you to go through and do them. Um, let's before we jump more into like more technical aspects of the interview, I want to hear about your background. Did you go to school?
Not so I dropped out in ninth grade, got my GED. Couple years later, I did a couple semesters at a state university. Didn't stick with it. Just traditional education wasn't my route. Just wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah. So you'd gone through GED. What about certs? Do you have any certificates? Did you try to get any certificates? What's your take on it?
No, so I don't have any certs. People ask me that question a lot, and it's not like I have anything against them. Like I think I did like 3 SANS courses over the past couple years, 6 years. The SANS courses are great if that's like how you like to learn. Just wasn't really for me. When I want to like learn something, I'm just gonna go dig into it. Like I don't really like having like a week-long course where it's kind of like a slow pace.
Yeah.
I feel like certs are maybe more for kind of just the consulting field where it's like, you can see that I know what I'm doing. I've put time into it. Don't really have a strong opinion. Like I know they're useful, just never really for me.
Do you recommend people that want to get into bug bounties to go after a cert?
I think you need to like identify the approach you want to take and then find what works best for you. I mean,
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with getting a cert. Like security is so diverse in what you can do and what you can learn
Yeah.
that in some cases getting certs or going to those courses can be extremely beneficial. If you're just going to do web bug bounty, I think there's probably better avenues, but again, it's entirely up to how you learn.
Do you recommend like an OSCP or CEH to anybody that's getting started?
CEH, like if you want to do government work, I think it's like required. OSCP, depending on the type of work that you want to do, more on like the networking side of like blue and red team style work. I mean, it's very, very beneficial. But again, if we're just talking like web bug bounty, you're going to learn a lot of things that you're maybe not going to use, but it will still be useful to know about them.
Yeah, I think there isn't really, well, not yet. There isn't any course or not even there are courses on Udemy. That's not there are courses, but there aren't any certificates that are bug bounty related, and I don't think bug bounty is mature enough to have that just yet. Um, I think personally, OSCP gives you the mentality or the way that hackers think and the things to look for, but it's not going to give you an upper hand into bug bounties. Like you're not going to be able to go immediately make money. You play a lot of CTFs, or at least you used to. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, CTFs have been like an on and off thing for me. I mean, you know me. I love puzzles, and we could talk about the puzzle stuff a
Oh, it's
bit
coming
too.
up.
Yeah. Um, I think CTFs and bug bounty and puzzles all kind of have like the same sort of like they scratch the same itch for me. CTFs, it's one of those things where if someone links it to me and it's like kind of interesting, I'll go do it. Like kind of like some of your CTFs this past year. I mean, they're your CTFs. I have to do them, right?
We
Uh,
keep you in mind when we design them. We want to make sure you can't solve it, and if you can't solve it, we've done our job right.
yeah. So it's not something I do consistently, but they're fun. They come up once in a while. Like I've never done them on like a team, like a big team, with the intent to like, oh, I'm gonna go to DEF CON and win.
Yeah,
I
you're a
think
casual player.
yeah, casual. I think last year I played with Hacking for Soju for a few months, and that's probably like the most serious I've gotten in CTFs.
Nice.
But it's just not consistent for me. It's just something I do once in a while.
Um, Tell me about CTFs. Cause like one of the things was like back in the earlier days when I just first met you, man, you were hard going to CTFs. Did that help you get better as a bug bounty hunter?
I don't think the things that you solve in CTFs necessarily teach you. In a way, they do, but it's not like, oh, I learned this like super edge case thing in the CTF challenge. Now I'm going to go apply it to the real world. Like, yeah, like maybe that exists, but I don't think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest takeaway for CTFs has always been like, at least for me personally, all right, I'm on a website. There's an intended solution here. I can't figure it out. So I need to figure it out. It's kind of like overcoming adversity and not giving up. Because I think a lot of the times in bug bounty, I mean, you're just going endpoint to endpoint to endpoint, or you see something interesting, you can't figure it out, but you move on. You're just like, I don't want to waste my time. I want to find like the low hanging. But I think like CTFs help build that mentality that, maybe you should hammer that a little bit harder. Like just because you're not finding it now doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Do you think the CTF skills that you pick up are transferable to bug bounties?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely help. They definitely help. Um, I mean, if you're new and you're just learning about XSS, and you do some XSS challenges where it's like, oh, I'm going to exploit like the blind XSS. Actually, that's kind of interesting to think about is like, in, Bug Bounty, you don't necessarily get to go like the full impact route. But in CTFs, with the blind XSS, you have to go the full impact. So maybe like you benefit more from the CTF in that it teaches you how to learn about impacts and how they work.
Are there any CTFs you regularly participate in? Like,
No.
is there one that comes up every year? You go, oh, I want to look at this because last year's was good. I've done the last year before.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I recognize the names. It's more of just like if I'm interested in doing CTFs at the time. I think like the one big one every year that's like, oh, I kind of want to look at that is Google because they go all out.
Yeah, I've seen you've done write ups on Google. I think you did one for Cure 53. Um,
Cure
those are
50. Oh, the
the
X
XSS.
Xmas challenges. Yeah, I don't think they've been doing that for a long time, but I did look forward to those every year because those were so difficult.
Let's talk about your puzzles because you brought it up on the topic of CTFs. What got you into puzzles? You have you're very passionate about puzzles, and it seems like you genuinely enjoy doing them. Has that always been the case as a kid, or was it just something that like piqued your interest at some point and you just got into it hardcore?
Yeah, that's actually like an interesting question. You would think like since I nerd out on puzzles, like I'd be like the kid trying to solve like crosswords in the newspaper, but that was like never the case, right? Growing up, I really got into things called ARGs, like alternate reality games, where it's kind of like the blend of like social media marketing, virality, and like puzzles. In a way, it's kind of like a marketing version of hacking. It's kind of hard to explain that, but I think doing those ARGs kind of turned me on to puzzles. But it wasn't really until I started going to DEF CON, which you think, going to DEF CON, you would be doing, the hacking, the CTFs and stuff. I actually got involved in like the mystery challenge by Lost, which was like very puzzle centric.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing the mystery challenge at DEF CON every year, I kind of just reached out. I wanted to find more puzzles, and I just found some like Discord communities, and it just kind of like spiraled from there.
You also won the DEF CON Black Badge, right? You have two of them.
Yep. I participated with two teams, Council of Nine, and I forget. I don't remember what we were called before that. Maybe it was just Council of Nine still. But yeah, we won 2 different years.
Was it back to back?
I believe so, if I remember correctly. It
I think
sounds
so.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you manage? I remember you were. So the first you came to DEF CON, we couldn't even meet because you guys were like 3 hours of sleep every night working on this thing. And the next year you did a little bit more. How does that work? How does it feel to solve them? How did you guys manage to do it? Um, did you learn
Yeah.
anything? Were there any takeaways from it every year? Like, did it help you in your career in any way?
Yeah. So the mystery challenge every year was there were props all around DEF CON, the pamphlet and the badge, and then there would be websites involved as well. All these like moving pieces were somehow involved. Like you would walk around the DEF CON halls and there would be like these large decals everywhere. And like if you weren't like specifically looking for it or know about Mystery Challenge, you wouldn't know that those decals are actually part of a challenge.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, so highly competitive, super, super competitive. I mean, we have like 8 people in a hotel room over the span of like 2 to 3 days, getting very little sleep, just trying to solve these things as fast as possible. Um, it's definitely interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more on the puzzle side than the security side. I mean, you're writing some Python scripts here and there. In terms of transferable skills and like helping me out, I think it's like the curiosity factor, right?
Yeah.
the same way where you're hacking a company or like a website, like it really like just forces you to think creatively.
I think that's the beauty of like any CTF or puzzles that happen in the infosec community is it makes you think a little bit harder. You know, the whole like cheesy try harder thing that everyone says, but I feel like it makes you think a little bit more, and um, it teaches you stuff indirectly not to give up, and things are there for a reason, and so on, right? But I want to jump into bug bounty specifically, just because we're in we're almost in our time. We're 20 minutes in. Let's get into bug bounties. I kind of wanted to do an introduction of like who you are, what you do, just because I know your background. I'm trying to think of things that I think the viewers would enjoy. So now that we know you play CTFs a lot, you are doing offensive security work for a day-to-day job. You got into hacking and security as a kid because you enjoyed programming and so on. Let's talk about bug bounties. Why bug bounties?
Yeah, bug bounties. Why that's a loaded question. Why? But I mean, I think first and foremost, it scratches an itch. Like even if you do it professionally for one company, I mean, you're locked into that one company.
Yeah.
It's really fun to be able to just kind of go out and hack on companies that these are like the day-to-day companies you see in like advertisement. You use their products. Like it's just like curious to be like have the opportunity to hack on these companies beyond like scratching that itch. Obviously money is a huge factor. It's an amazing opportunity.
So there's money. There's the. So do you hack on some companies just because of the name, because of how big they are, because you've heard about them, you use their products?
Yeah, absolutely. And like a lot of people on Twitter, they're very adamant about saying, bug bounty is only about money, and it's like I don't believe that's true necessarily. If I use a product and I want to hack on them, and they have a disclosure policy, or they'll pay me, it's like I'm like mad curious to hack on them. One of the bounties I got was because I bought a Samsung smart TV. I had to install an app on my computer to stream video to the TV. Like Chromecast wasn't available at the time, anything like the Roku's and stuff. So you're pretty much using a console or using the apps that the companies would give you. And I was on a website. It said, "Hey, go to this website to select a video to stream from your computer." And I was like, "What? That doesn't make sense." So I went to the website, and all of a sudden, I see my C drive on the website. And obviously, the hacker mentality there is what, why is this here? What is going on? And just start digging into it, right? I think it's just a curiosity thing. If you have the product, maybe you're just curious how it works.
How do you pick your targets with that in mind? Like, what makes you want to go after a company? Because I've seen you personally. We've hacked on a bunch of good paying companies: Apple, Airbnb, Verizon Media, Facebook, and then I've seen us go and hack on some like ultimately random company just because of the name. How do you pick your targets?
Yeah, yeah. I thought a lot about this question. That's a tough one to answer too. It's back when I first started, with the Hacker One and the Bug Crowd and the Synac, I think I would actually scroll through the program list and just be like, okay. I think we even made a spreadsheet at one point because we were going for one finding on one target a day. That
Oh,
was a
that's
really,
hard.
yeah, we should talk about that a bit more. That was a lot of fun. That was an interesting experience, but kind of like the mentality of scrolling through and just being like, okay, does this look like an easy target where I can make money? Trying to like min max it, and I don't really do that anymore. I don't think that was like a healthy way, like a not a great approach, because I think you'll burn out quick doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of my collaboration lately, I would say like the past year or two, is honestly someone just reaching out to me and just saying, "Hey, you want to hack on this?" And it's just like, yeah, why not? It's that like collaboration factor. And obviously there's still like, if I get a new invite to a program I haven't seen before, if it's new or it's just a product that I'm curious about, then I'll dig into it.
Does the bounty amount factor in at any point?
I think it can in like a negative way, where if they don't pay well and it's not worth my time, I'm gonna lose interest very quickly. Um, but obviously, if they pay a lot, that's gonna grab my attention a little bit more.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I mean, I've seen you go from programs that pay maybe 2,000 max to 20,000 max, and also like as far as hacking a Red Bull, which just gives us Red Bull. Which, by the way, I'm disappointed to see a monster on your table and not a Red Bull. So,
Yeah, I'm a Monster guy. My wife actually drinks the Red Bull, and me hacking on Red Bull was specifically to get cases for her.
I got my Red Bull for you here. I haven't opened it up, but I'll put it here. It's not a sponsored episode, but I'll keep it here. No, you can put that in the frame, man. It doesn't bother me. I thought it was funny knowing that we just hacked on Apple and sorry Red Bull, and you have a monster in front of you instead of a Red Bull can.
I am trying to cut back. Yeah, Fever noticed it is a little tiny one. It's
Can I
actually a really tiny can.
can I talk about the time that I saw you down a monster and go to sleep?
Yeah, dude, I've just been drinking them for so long. I don't know if they even do anything for me anymore. It's actually super unhealthy.
I've seen this guy take an entire monster pre-flight on the way to Amsterdam, and I'm miserable. I've stayed up all night playing video games to sleep on the flight, and I couldn't fall asleep. And I look over after he's down his monster. This guy's just completely knocked out all the way to Amsterdam, which is a great flight. We'll get to that. Let's talk about more about Bug Bounties. So, you pick your targets based on different things: the scope, the bounty amount, if it's a product you wanted to hack on, and so on. Tell me about. You said collaboration. Let's talk about it a little bit. Why do you collaborate? Why is collaboration so important?
Yeah, I think it's just like a fun thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of benefits to collaboration, like such as, working off of someone who might find something that you miss, or just like kind of maybe they have experience in areas that you don't and you kind of get to learn from them. But I think collaboration at the end of the day is just like a fun thing. I hack for fun. Getting money is obviously a huge incentive and it's really fun to make money. But if I'm not getting messages from someone where it's like we're hitting something and they're like, maybe I get bored because I'm not finding anything, you know, um, and then maybe I'll lose interest. But if I'm collaborating with like, one or more people and I'm not having luck, maybe they find something interesting, blast it out, and all of a sudden we're having fun again, right? It just kind of keeps the excitement going.
It's a momentum.
Yeah, for sure. It really is.
Are there? Do you also hack alone, or are you mostly collaborating with people when you're hacking on a bug bounty program, or do you prefer one over the other?
Um, I think I prefer collaboration. I actually thought about it earlier and I was like, I don't know if I've hacked alone at all this year except for a program earlier this week. And even then I was sending what I was finding to someone else, just trying to get them to collaborate with me just for the fun factor, right? I think I hack almost exclusively via collaboration now.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier. It's especially with like being quarantined, dude. None of us are going anywhere. I think that human element of working with each other helps. But I want to hear more in specific, like how has collaboration helped you so far? How has it improved you? Any disadvantage of it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's improved me tremendously, right? Getting the opportunity to hack with different hackers. I um had known like Sam Curry, just like had seen him at bug bounty events for years. Never even talked to him. And then just this past year, he reached out to me. We started collaborating, and now he's like a great friend. And I'm learning a lot from him. I think it's sort of like the thing with collaboration is, you get to meet new people that you may not have interacted with otherwise.
Okay. Um, how are you learning new things? Is what I want to echo out. Like the importance of collaboration. How are you learning new things because you're collaborating with other people?
Yeah, I mean, it can be like everything, right? It can be from the technical side of things where maybe they know something about like, I spent some time collaborating with Franz and Matthias and some of the things they were doing at scale with like the JSON APIs that we were messing with is just like it was super impressive. Like there's definitely things I took away from that I was like I would have tried that approach to like as little as like, hey, what tools are you using? what burp plugins do you have? Just kind of seeing their methodology and their flow, where maybe you're both hacking the same thing at the same time, and just their approach, you kind of like can see like, hey, maybe I can improve what I'm doing here, or it's just kind of curious to see, huh, like you thought to look at it that way. I never would have thought that,
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things with like you highlighted is just seeing other people's perspective, especially when it comes down to seeing the things you have missed and seeing like, how did I miss this bug? Sometimes it's easy things. It's like it could be like an XSS. You missed it somehow, right? But that other person has found it. Now you start implementing that into your methodology to make sure you don't miss it in the future. And tooling wise, I think my favorite thing has been to see what other people do. How do people run the same task as I do? Is it more efficient? Is it faster? Is it better? Why? How? And I can implement that in my own way. So I think it's definitely a plus side to collaborating, especially if it's people that have the same experience as you, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. It doesn't have to be a race. As long as it's a healthy balance and you're learning from each other, collaboration could be a very, very big thing. Um, do you do a lot of recon?
Yeah, so that's like the funny question because, you know, hacking with me for years, you know that I don't do a ton of recon, and actually I rely on you for a lot of the recon. I feel like I've gotten a lot better at recon over the past year or so, but I would say like just getting into bug bounty, I did almost no recon at all. If I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go hack Apple," is like I'm just gonna load www.apple.com, right? It was really interesting seeing a lot of the findings that people were finding that I was missing on certain programs, where it's like, hey, this guy just found an RCE on this endpoint, and I'm like, well, I'm not even like doing dirt busting. I never would have found that. So I really had to like expand my arsenal by learning recon the past few years. And I would say, even still, like recon is a very small part of my hacking process.
I think you do the large scale recon isn't really your thing, like content discovery, asset discovery. But I think there's a better way of approaching this question. How do you approach your target? You just said you go to www.apple.com. Let's say you have a new target like Apple, a huge company like Google, Apple, Red Bull, whatever. How do you approach it? Or how do you decide where to start?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the program scope is the first thing I'll look at. Um, how I approach Apple is going to be vastly different to another company that has a very specific scope. But
Yeah.
if we want to talk about like how I approach something like Apple, it's all about attack surface, right? And that's what recon means to me. Recon is the act of identifying attack surface, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna do a lot of the same things that you show your viewers, right? Where I'm gonna go to like Shodan, Census, recon.dev is another great one. Irby's tools, I'm just gonna try and compile as many domains as I can as possible.
Okay.
And like IP sitter ranges, like what do they have registered? What's their organization name? Like with Apple, it was a bit easier actually because they own, the 17/8. So it's like, scan that IP range, right?
Right.
Once I find all the domains that I'm interested in, I have my own tooling called NetSquid. I started
God
focusing
bless next squid.
Yeah, it's been around many years now. Um, Scanning to see like what's even online.
Okay.
There's like FScan is built into it. Just what will respond to pings at scale. If I'm hitting a lot of servers, like I might need to just see if it even responds to a ping. Then we'll start going for ports, banners. Nmap with the banner plugin, super useful. I mean, like mass scans probably faster, but I've always relied on Nmap. Once I find servers that have web banners, I've got like some Phantom JS and Python for screenshots. And at that point, I'll sift through screenshots, response headers, response text. Once I identify the apps that exist, that's when I start to like, that's my area. That's where I get in my groove.
But how do you pick which targets to rely on? Like, not rely on, to go after. So if there are 500 domains you've found, You have all the titles, all these open ports. How do you pick which one to prioritize?
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'll go for like the low hanging first. So I'll search for keywords that are just like, debug, admin, dev. Once you start to like go through targets a little bit, you collect information and then you'll go back and maybe start searching for those again. Like maybe you'll look for like Jenkins, things that that probably shouldn't be public facing.
Okay.
So if you can see those keywords and that's probably like an interesting area to dig into first. Um, Another thing that I've been doing recently is I'll just kind of start scraping JavaScript files off of every page, and then I'll just start searching through at scale through all the JavaScript. Because instead of having to go like I'm gonna look at these 200 hosts and see which one has like an interesting login that might expose like some API info from a JavaScript file, it's like why not just pull all the JavaScript and just go through all of them at once,
Why are
Um,
you scraping JavaScript files? Why is that important?
JavaScript can leak, sensitive info like tokens, or maybe there's like comments that didn't get removed from the devs that might have information about like where an internal GitHub environment might be. And from there, then you start getting like internal DNS names. Maybe you get some like project names. It kind of helps you learn how the company, I don't know how I'd phrase that, but kind of like how the company's ecosystem is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those things that you don't really think about, but in the back of your mind, you're kind of like creating this huge web of like, after like a month of hacking on a target, now you kind of like understand like, oh, these are these services. I recognize like this is like a company program name that they have. Even you just looking at Apple just recently with the daiquiri header, it's those little things that you pick up on, right? But
Yeah.
other than that, obviously the big thing with JS is you're finding the like API endpoints or new domains, and if you find really low hanging, maybe it's just like a proxy that's just like or an API endpoint that's just a proxy, right? Or you find a param named URL. It's like, yeah, I want to hit those, right? I want to see those first.
Is that why you created JS Parser?
Yeah, JS parser was interesting, right? We were hacking on Airbnb at the time, right?
Yep.
Gotta think back a little bit. This is a few years ago.
It's been a while, man. Went by
Um,
quick.
Actually, yeah, we can't take full credit for that one because that was Yobert, right? With
Yep.
he was just scraping through JS files and he found an endpoint. He had it like automated, I believe, and then he found like one endpoint that they added that would just like completely own that company. And we are like, that's smart. We need to like start automating that. So we started pulling JS files, simple regex or just simple searches. We're like, yeah, we're extracting it like because Airbnb was almost entirely JavaScript at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
all of their JS files were completely exposed in like an index file, including like admin JS files. So it's like, man, we can find every API that exists just by going through these JS files. And I think at that point we're like, all right, we need to like find a way to automate this. This is like a tedious process to do manually.
And that's when I don't know what we called it. I think it was like Auto Air is a tool we called it. It was like Auto Airbnb. So for people just watching, I think at some point we just stopped finding easy bugs on Airbnb. And I don't mean like low hanging fruit. It was just like it was to a point that we've gone through the entire UI and we're just like, dude, we've hit like every endpoint, every module, every functionality on this website. There's got to be more. And I think this is when you came up with the idea of like, okay, we already have all the JS files. It's just every week on a Monday or Tuesday or twice a week, we're just gonna scan them all, diff to last week or the week before it, and find endpoints. And I think on the first try is when you got that SSRF.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had a realization. I think we were hacking Airbnb for like a year at that point. Airbnb is a big website and a big company, but compared
Yeah.
to other companies, it's a simple app, right? Or it's not simple, but it's like after a year, it's kind of just like I don't know what else to look for anymore. And that's not to say that there weren't vulns. I mean, I think there was a live hacking event where people found like $100,000 worth of vulns on Airbnb after we spent a year on it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this stuff exists, but you can only stare at a website for so long before you're just like, I don't know what else to do. But I think there was a point where they added something new to the site and we completely missed it. And then it was like, yo, I think we found like actually we can't talk about that one. But we found something and we're like, man, that had been there for like a month and we completely missed it. We need to like have a better way at detecting these things, the changes that they're making.
Yeah, and I think we realized like they were actively pushing new products to the site. Like there was new stuff coming into the site, into the app that we couldn't see, but they were definitely there. Like, one of the server side stuff that we found was literally because they just pushed it into their prod side and it just happened to come in our diffs.
Yeah.
Which shows the importance of like going after these JavaScript files. If you understand the someone said let it slip. Yeah, sorry. It's a really, really slippery slope I don't want to go down. But yeah.
We were actually told not to talk about that one specific finding.
But yeah, there is, it shows the importance of like understanding how the application works, right? You understand this is how to deploy things. You understand how to index all the JavaScript files. You automate it. We wanted to scale up. We knew there was more bugs because a live hacking event just proved to us that there was more stuff on there, but we just missed it. You want to talk about the RC because I think you wrote about the RC, right?
Yeah, that was the interpolation one, right?
Yeah. You want to tell the story of how we almost cried because we missed out on like a good double bonus a week earlier?
Yeah, that was like I think that was the first live hacking event actually. Maybe
first H1415. It was the very first H1415 we ever did, and the only live hacking event that I ever got to participate in.
Damn, yeah. I remember, I think it's like the last time I saw Ruby, just in a room, just going completely nuts.
That guy owned it. That guy owned that event.
He went crazy, dude. Yeah, I found an error. I think this was the first time we looked at Airbnb, or we hadn't spent a lot of time on it at that point, I don't think. I'm trying to remember.
I think this is still early days. No, we were just looking at XSS because this is after we found like those CSP bypass, and we were familiar with how to bypass their XSS protection, but we have never looked at like server side stuff deep. Right. And you came up with some crazy shit.
Yeah, we were kind of just playing around. I wasn't like super well versed with like Ruby as a Ruby the programming language because they were like very heavily utilizing like a custom version of like Ruby on Rails or something. I don't even know. But it has a lot of like interpreting what you're sending based on the characters that you send. So it's like if you send it as an array, it might convert it and try and typecast it into like a list or like a specific type of object. And we'd kind of seen that a little bit with the XSS. But there were times when we would throw certain things in and we would see like memory addresses returned, like object names, and we're like, this is really strange. There's got to be more to this. And we were just like throwing certain things in and getting certain returns back that we were like, I think it was like the YAML, if I remember correctly, it was like the YAML error. And at the time, it was like pretty well known that if you could pass YAML in, there was a good chance you were going to get like a deserialization RCE. So I went down that route for the entire event. I think I spent maybe like 6 hours trying to figure this out. And I think Yobert even was trying to help me out. Just didn't work, didn't pan out. And then it was literally a week later. I think I was like so frustrated. I was like, if I had gotten that RCE, like I could have won the event. Like at the time I really wanted to win one of the live hacking events. And I was like mad frustrated at myself. So I went back home and I was like, I'm just going to hit Airbnb again, see if I can figure it out. And that's when we realized it was parsing like interpolation. We're like, man, we're like doing all this crazy typecasting, and it's clear that, we got RCE here. I think it was Irby Sam who was like, dude, you don't even need to do half of that. Like, it's just straight up interpolating your input.
I think we were overcomplicating it, and it was just way more simpler than we thought.
It was literally just copy and paste the payload off of a website. Kind of niche. Not a lot of people were like looking for those sort of things, but at the end of the day, it was pretty much just copy paste RCE.
Yeah, and it also shows the collaboration thing, right? If it wasn't for you going to somebody else and saying, hey, like, I swear there's an RCE here, you want to look at it and then realizing like, dude, we're just overcomplicating this. It shouldn't have been that complicated. We should have already had it. But hey, it's still a good bounty. It was what, 15, 10, 15K? 15K?
Yeah, I think it ended up being 15K. That was a good one. That was like the first time I had found like just straight RCE on one of like the bigger companies.
Yeah, I think Airbnb was great time for us. It was one of the probably one of the most fun programs that we got to spend some time on. Even after they went public with their program, it was so fun to hit their bug bounty program and find some bugs.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the collaboration there, and then just they paid well, so it was like a fun target to just stick with.
Yeah, especially in the earlier days, man, like when the bug bounty first launched, XSS was being paid out as much as Google was paying for them. If you had to store XSS, I think they were paying like thousands of dollars for them if you found them, and we spent a lot of time looking for those. If you want to hear more about these, go to Brett's website. I'll make sure to link it in the chat. But you should go to his website, check out some of the write-ups. There's a good XSS write-up on there, and there's also a good write-up on RC. And you did also the SSRF write-up too on there, I think.
Yeah, we got like 6 on there. That was fun.
How'd you get so good at finding the server-side vulns? What was the like? How do you learn new techniques? How do you learn server-side stuff and get better at them? What's your advice for people?
Yeah, I mean it depends on approach, right? Like for me personally, a lot of my earlier time with computers was spent learning programming. So it's like I was kind of like familiar with like, oh, server-side request forgery. That's a new concept for me. A lot of people are finding them, but like as soon as I read about it, it's like, oh yeah, okay. So like PHP, just using curl to request a website, like I can totally understand why that would exist. If you don't really have that programming background, it may be a little bit harder. You may have to like, do those labs, those CTFs, or maybe even look up some of the functions that can cause these vulns to get like a better understanding of how they exist. But like once you understand them, it's pretty much just go do them, go find them. Like you're not gonna like you could read about XSS or like a blind XSS or SSRF. You could read
All right.
for weeks, for months about them. There's so many resources now, so many people talking about them. But for me personally, I don't know, like just going out, finding it, playing with it, and like learning the nuances is the only way I think that you're gonna like actually learn it and get better at it.
You mentioned you code a lot. Is coding, you think, a requirement for bug bounties?
It's not a requirement. Absolutely not a requirement. Some of like the most successful people in bug bounty are like very adamant about how they don't program and don't know much about programming. I think it helps a lot, and I think you will benefit largely from it, especially if it's just even if it's just tooling, right? Learning a little bit about Python, a little bit about JavaScript, being able to build tools, being able to like read a JavaScript file, I think will help a lot. But being like, a god tier engineer for like, a Fortune 500 company, I don't think it's required.
You don't have to be a full stack developer, right?
Right.
Why is that beneficial? Like, why do you think it's beneficial to learn programming to be successful as a hacker?
I think there's like an intuition factor in hacking where you can acquire that knowledge from hacking. It's experience, right? Like I said, like just going out, finding those vulnerabilities, playing with them. Now you have that knowledge where if you see it again in the future, like I recognize those patterns. I think as a programmer with the programming knowledge, you might have like a better understanding of those patterns and why they exist in the first place, right? Something you might not identify as a hacker until you've seen it many times.
Okay. Um, do you think if I want to get into hacking and I want to, you know, progressively get better, what languages should I learn? How should I? Is there anything specific with each language that I should learn in order to become better, or is it just learn, some scripting, Python, Ruby, then you're good to go?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it really depends, right? Like we said with Airbnb, I mean, the more you knew about Rails and Ruby, the better off you would be hacking on that target, right?
All right.
At the end of the day, it's all about efficiency and how you want to learn and what motivates you to learn. I think with me with programming, I talked a bit about it with like the open source emulators and the C++. It's like that for a lot of people cannot be their first language. It's just so complicated. It's overwhelming. You're just going to give up. Um, you know, learning programming for me was always like, I have an idea for like something simple that I want to make just for fun, and I made it, right? And I think that's like how you learn.
Yeah, I think just understanding what's happening under the hood. Like with Airbnb's case, we found out it was Ruby. There's all these mistakes they made. There's other common things you can do in Ruby. And just having that knowledge or just knowing what to look for on Google, like these are the things that I want to look for in Ruby specifically, kind of does help. But I agree, it's not a requirement. I don't really do personally myself a lot of programming. I know Bash. I know maybe 10% of Ruby, which I don't think I even remember from 7 years ago anymore. But just Bash and knowing how to script and automate your work to be more efficient is definitely helpful, but not a requirement. Do you use any tools?
Tooling, I mean, Burp, Notepad++, some of the stuff I talked about earlier, Phantom.js for screenshots, Nmap. I don't really go too crazy with the tooling. You know me. I prefer to hack on just like the applications. I spend most of my time just looking in Burp, honestly.
So with Burp, do you use any specific, extensions? Anything you recommend people to use?
Yeah, there's two plugins that were huge, 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 huge. The first one was just I forget the name of it. It's just like a JSON beautifier where it will let you beautify JSON in the request and the response,
Okay.
allow you to like manipulate it, and then it will like um, reform it for you. Actually, I think I have a GraphQL one as well, which I recommend as well. The other one is Hackverter, which the main reason I use that one is if you're playing around with a request that has like base 64 encoding, it's so tedious to have to copy paste it out, manipulate it, re-encode it in base 64, then URL encode it. There's so many little nuances. With Hackverter, you can just encapsulate what you want to do to like a string with like base 64 tags, and then it will base 64 it when you send the request. It's a
That's
huge, huge
handy.
plugin.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Okay. Those are your two that you use.
Yeah, those are the main two that I use.
Are there any tools like do you use FUF? Do you use HTTP Probe, Wayback URLs? I think you use archives a lot. I want to talk about that a little bit. But any other tools that you recommend people using or you use personally?
Um, Not like honestly, I don't really use those tools, and I know I should, and that's probably an area that I need to improve in. But like archive.org, I'm sure people have scripted or tooled it out, but I still just hit the endpoint, the JSON endpoint for it. Um, I'm very much stuck in my ways.
I mean, your thing is it still works, right? Whatever you've been doing works for you, and it doesn't have to be doing the same things as other people do. But I kind of want to show the fact that like everybody that comes on the show, they they approach bug bounties differently. It doesn't have to always be using the same tools that I use or the tools that you see popular on Twitter. Um, I still want to kind of talk about because you have a very unique approach. The reason why I asked about your tooling and your recon and automation is you have a really unique approach. We talked about approaching a target when it's a large target like like a Apple or Ripple or whatever. What do you do on these smaller bug bounty programs? When do you know? And also like when do you know when to stop? Like when you said you see all these endpoints, you go endpoint to endpoint is what you said earlier. When do you know when to stop on an endpoint, to stop looking at this particular endpoint, or when do you know it's a good time to look at an endpoint?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's like people want to have like that mind map. They want to know like, hey, in your brain, you're hitting that endpoint. How did you know to like stop looking at it, or how did you know to like try that extra directory or that parameter or that header? Um, it's just intuition and it's experience, right? If you go to like an API endpoint, like let's say you go to a website, you grab the JS file, you pull all the API endpoints. Okay, you got like 50 API endpoints on here. Maybe I'll throw, like /docs on there, maybe like a simple word list. Maybe I'll try like 4 or 5 API endpoints and they keep returning, unauthorized. Like maybe I'll try and find a way around the authorization or see if like the auth tokens are like baked into the JavaScript. But there comes like a certain point where it's like, okay, I clearly don't have auth to this website. I'm not finding a way to bypass that auth. Let me look at like what endpoints exist and determine if it's worth my time to try and like get access to this API somehow. Like, maybe there's like an API endpoint that's like, oh, upload or pull customer data, or it's just straight proxy, like view screenshot with a URL param. My interest at that point is, hey, I want access to this app. I know if I get access that there's going to be vulnerabilities here, or it's highly likely, right? If it's just like, oh, this is like some customer app where you can upload like a spreadsheet and you can view some customer data, it's like, yeah, maybe there's like an IDOR here, but is it really worth like 10 plus hours of my time trying to break into it? At a certain point, you just kind of have that gut reaction of like, okay, it's time to move on. What's the next host? What's the next thing to look at?
So you're not really timing it. It's just based on the things that you have tried, the return of investment of your time, and whether or not like you're gonna get access to this thing. It just comes down to the conditions, but you don't give it a certain amount of time. You don't, bound it by some number. This is what I'm gonna do for this many hours or whatever, and then move to the next endpoint.
Yeah, maybe that's like a bit of an experience and a knowledge thing, or even just like a guess, like guesstimating. Like even when we were hitting Apple, we knew like, okay, we figured out that this is how their auth worked, and these are how you could enumerate through all the apps for the auth. Now all of a sudden we found like an IDOR that exposed all the apps that existed on this prod login, and then we would enumerate through all of them. We're like, okay, we can access like 10 of these apps out of 2,000 apps. Like clearly, if we could bypass this somehow and get into these apps, I mean, there's millions of dollars to be made there, literally millions of dollars. And it's like, even knowing that the whole time, you would sit there and say, okay, I can't just spend the next 2 weeks focusing exclusively on Apple Auth and trying to break it. Like, yeah, it'd be very juicy. And there's a lot of interesting things with the Auth, but that's like, that could be a couple months of research of just focusing exclusively on what could be, essentially maybe a couple dozen endpoints, right? Like there are times when you know it's just not worth the time right now, or maybe that you're going to burn out looking at it, so you kind of just put it away for another time.
Yeah, I mean, based on that, you take notes, right? So you're taking notes of things that you think are interesting based on what you say. You're putting them somewhere to go back to. How do you note these? Like, what kind of information do you jot down? How do you even take notes on this kind of thing?
Yeah. So, like, for every company, I have a folder where I'll drop like text files in. I'll collect all the JavaScripts. I'll save the JavaScripts. I won't even save like my whole burp state. I'll just copy paste all the URLs out unless I like specifically need the requests and the responses. Usually the URLs have been very useful for me, where I found like the bulky full request and response data hasn't always been the most useful thing. Sometimes your data just gets too big where it's no longer useful. It becomes more tedious than anything.
Yeah.
I'll write down, all of the endpoints. Here's how the auth works. I mean, I have a text file on how Apple Auth works alone, right? That's like independent of a specific application, and just the authentication and how you would auth in. These are the cookies that you would get. These are the flows. These are the different endpoints. These are like the little nuances that we noticed. And then I think the most useful thing from those notes is when I'd go back and just, just grep through it, or just do like a search all, like, hey, this is an interesting keyword. Where does it exist? Like, I think we had one finding on Apple, which was like the GSF framework, which was like mad interesting, but it was just so many random terms and endpoints where we were just like, we don't have any info on how this works. So, and I think at that point we had like, I don't even know, like 5,000 JavaScript files. So we just like started to search for those terms. And then that's when we found another GSF framework, another one out there. So it's like just collecting that data and then going back to it later on, you found something that you just wouldn't even have known to look for.
So do you usually, so when you go back to these targets, like let's say if you want to hack on Apple, the first thing you gotta do naturally is go back to your notes, see where you left off, anything interesting, and go back and hammer at those, or do you go back and just read them and approach a target brand new? Like I'm trying to say is, when you go back to hack on a program, do you look at it with a fresh set of eyes, or do you try and pick up where you left off the last time you hacked on them?
Yeah, I think that depends. I think personally for me, I want to start fresh, but I want to utilize those notes still. In terms of like recon data, I'll probably do like a fresh thing of recon and maybe even diff it to be like, okay, what's the new hosts? Um, and like I said, like there's times when I'm hacking, I'll squirrel something away. Like, hey, I want to mess with this auth. I just don't want to do it right now. So maybe when I come back, like it's like, okay, maybe now it's time to look at the auth.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting, I guess. I don't know. I don't know like a specific answer to that.
No, I just wanted to highlight your note taking because I know you. I personally need to take notes. I personally don't take notes, but I know sometimes your notes have came in handy. But I wanted to kind of highlight because one of the biggest questions I see on Twitter and like on Discord is, do you take notes? How do you take notes? Why? Why should I? Why shouldn't I? I don't take notes. My notes are my browser history most of the time. I take some of the endpoints that I think are juicy or oh this map and vulnerable. I'll note it, but I don't take details like you just mentioned, like on the whole login thing. I don't do that kind of thing, but I think there is definitely value, especially if you're good at note taking and you go and revisit those. Um, let's talk.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's something interesting that you just noticed. Yeah, like browser history is like note taking too. It's like mad useful, right? I can't even count the amount of times I've gone back and just searched through my browser history for something. Like just recently, this when you were doing the recon on the AMP stuff, I just AMP space apple.com found a couple of things I had looked at already. Um, I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't utilize that.
Yeah, there's been a few times when I'm like, I've seen this endpoint, I've seen this name, keyword somewhere, and the browser history has been really helpful. I've been going to my VPS and typing history and grepping for that keyword and hoping it shows up. But yeah, the details, it sometimes does help depending on the target and how often you go back and forth between those.
Oh, that brings something up actually, something I didn't even think about. Back when I was collaborating with Franz and Matthias, we set up a new Slack, and anytime we would find something interesting, well, for one, we had a Slack channel called Interesting where we would post anything that was interesting in there, and then if we went down like a certain tangent, like a certain path, we'd create a new channel and keep all the notes in there. And I found this like very useful, especially with Apple. We were all in a Discord channel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh my god, like having a Discord channel that you can search through and pin stuff has been like a godsend for note taking. Like you don't need to go all out and get super fancy with note taking, but you need to have a way to kind of like enumerate through some of the things you've looked at in the past. Like, if you're gonna hack something for 6 months, you need to be able to be like, hey, have we ever looked at this subdomain? And that's where that info really comes in handy.
Yeah, I want to. The chat is saying someone says you're not a hacker, he's a professional monster drinker. Crown Gold? I don't know if you know this person
Yeah,
or not.
yeah, I do. He's a troll. He's a troll.
But yeah, back to Discord thing. Yeah, and one of the most helpful things was the pins, right? Like just having whatever seemed interesting, important. I think there's like 200 pins on that channel right now or in that group. But you're right. Like it doesn't have to be a notebook or notepad or Evernote. It could be as simple as having a Discord or having a Slack channel where you share things and you organize them. I think I use our chats a lot of times for notes. I go back, like you and I just put random stuff that we see is interesting, and then just go search through it when it's on Discord. It's a lot easier to find them. Um, let's talk about a little bit less technical and hacking related terms. Did you have any mentors, directly or indirectly, that helped you with hacking, bug bounties, and whatever else offensive security you want to put in there?
Yeah. That was an interesting question. I was thinking about that earlier. Um, I would say mentors is kind of a weird one. There's a guy who helped me a lot with programming when I was growing up. He was like really awesome. He has like a big company now. At the time, I was just like learning how to do PHP and stuff. Whenever I wanted to like figure out how something worked, I'd send him a question, and he would, he'd answer, or he'd share his code with me, and I would just kind of learn off of that. Having someone like that is insanely helpful. There are times where you want to learn and you want to be self-sufficient. You want to go out and be able to answer your questions, but sometimes you don't even know what your question is. And I don't want to say that guy's name, but yeah, he was insanely helpful. Getting into Bug Bounty, I mean, obviously you were a big mentor for me. You know, I'm a very shy person, antisocial. So going out to like the live hacking events was a struggle for me, and you really helped me out with that. I've always appreciated that. Um, Technically, um, I want to say anyone who I've ever collaborated with, right? I'm always learning from people. You know, you think of like a mentor as someone who's like insanely talented, who knows a lot, or they're like way older than you or more experienced. It's like not necessarily true. I mean, some of the people I'm collaborating with are 10 years younger than me, and I'm still learning from them, right?
Yeah, I think the mentorship doesn't have to always be someone that's older than you. It just could be someone that's more experienced in that thing you're doing. Um, it doesn't have to be also be directly. It could be indirectly by reading the write ups, following the research, or trying the same things as they do. It could be mentorship. I just realized I never asked you about this. I see your H1 2000 and not 2000 H1 2012 belt right there. How did it feel to win, man? I was actually, last week is when we were in New York. It was about a week or 10 days ago. I have this app that shows me photos I've taken from, years prior on that exact date. And then all the photos of you with your belt in New York were coming up. So we were kind of on the anniversary of you. I'm looking at my phone to find some of these photos that I have of you. Anniversary of us going to New York, and that's the year that you won. How did it feel? How did it feel to get that belt and finally achieve it? Because I know you were chasing it for a while, as you mentioned earlier too. How did it feel?
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously amazing. It was a lot of weird mixed emotions. There was a lot of reasons why it was awesome. I think for me personally, though, it was kind of like proving to myself that I belonged. Um, it's kind of a tough thing, like especially in Bug Bounty or at like a live hacking event, you're surrounded by so much talent. If you can't, like, if you're going out and you're actually trying to win and you can't win, you kind of question yourself. So I kind of felt like I had finally proven to myself, which, maybe that's not like the best metric, but for me, I felt like I had finally proven it to myself. But that one specifically was super awesome. I mean, it was in New York. It was a government target. The vulnerability I found that pushed me over and allowed me to win was something that everyone was looking at, because it was very obvious that it could have been exploited, but people couldn't figure it out. And there was a nice little exploit chain, which Matthias helped me with, that was like, it was really a good feeling that I was like, oh man, I'm the one who figured it out.
Yeah, you were specifically just. I remember the chat on Slack. You kept telling me, "Dude, I know this is exploitable. I know this is exploitable. We just need to find a. I think it was an open redirect you needed. You're like, I need an open redirect. I need an open redirect, and then the open redirect wouldn't work. Something, and then Matthias was just like, "Oh, this is how you do it." It was some sort of a double encoding, triple encoding, and
Yeah, yeah. So it was an endpoint. So it was funny. They had us hacking on, like, I think the scope was like 150 targets, but every target was the same CMS. So there's really only like a handful of dynamic endpoints to mess with. And this one endpoint was on all of the websites that would fetch. It was like a video text file. I think it was like subtitles or something, and it was by domain. So it was like whitelisted, and it was very obvious that if you could break this whitelist, that it would be SSRF, probably full response. So at that point, it's like, okay, I need a open redirect. And that was the trick, was that there was a redirect on login, but that was post auth. You had to like, you couldn't force it to make a post request with authentication. So that's when I had like the idea, like, oh, let me try this on logout. Maybe the redirect exists on logout, and that's
right.
when it worked. And I was like, oh snap, right, it worked. But then there was still like the whitelist problem. Like, yeah, you could now redirect anywhere, but it was still checking the host to make sure it matched the whitelist. And that's when Matthias was like, "Oh, I tried a couple different obvious things that I knew, but Matthias had the idea to double encode, or no, it wasn't even double encode. It was just new lines. For some reason, new lines broke it, and I was like, I never would have thought to try that.
Collaboration, man. It's always, always collaboration.
Yeah, maybe I won. I got the belt because I found the redirect, but I split the payout with him because it's like without his finding, I would have got nothing. So
Yeah, and it's just amazing that everybody, I remember everybody specifically was looking at that vuln, and it just, nobody could figure it out, and you just persistent, man. You relentlessly did not give up. Let's talk about, this is where shit gets real a little. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Do you deal with imposter syndrome at all?
yeah, I think so. I think it's not as bad as it used to be. I think in the era of hacking that I grew up in, where it was a lot of like underground and there's a lot of like black hat and seedy people. You just couldn't learn security without being surrounded by those types of people. You didn't really you never really reached out and talked to people the same way that you do nowadays. Like having like a live stream with hackers, like I would never even have thought that would be a thing in the future. So, back in the day, you never really had a way to gauge yourself against other people. Like, am I good at this? Am I only finding stuff because, security is not like a popular thing at the time? Like no one's really looking for these things. So is it just like, am I just, I don't know. But I think over the years, especially since I got a professional job, like working in the industry professionally, I'm a little bit more confident in my skill set.
Okay.
Especially like the live hacking events and kind of engaging with other people in the bug bounty scene. I can kind of see like, hey, maybe I do know a thing or two. I'm helping some of the people who I look up to. Like, that's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. There is always security is always evolving, right? Like you can become irrelevant in a month. When I started working at Blizzard, everything was Java, and then eventually it moved over to Node. Things are just, then cloud became a thing, with AWS, like things just change rapidly and you have to stick with it. And there's always that fear, like, am I getting too old? Am I not keeping up with it? I think it's a thing that's always there in the back of your mind.
Do you deal with it frequently? Do you still deal with it frequently? Or has it gotten better as you have gotten better at your job and you became more comfortable with what you do?
I think I've gotten really good at identifying where, especially where if I'm hitting a program and it's like I'm not finding anything, this is frustrating. Like, how are other people I'm hacking with? Like just recently with this new program, I hacked on it. I submitted like 5 things. Then the program shut down. They're like, we've had too many submissions. And then they did payouts. And eventually I looked at the leaderboards and I'm like, man, these guys have like 400 more rep than me. They found so much more stuff than me in the same amount of time that I was hacking on it. That's like, it makes me feel like, man, like, am I not good anymore?
Yeah.
I think I've started to identify it's a little bit of just burnout and maybe I need to like take a step back and just be like, you're not always going to win. You're not always going to find stuff. It's like, maybe you just need a break,
Yeah. And that comes with burnouts, right? Like you're not finding anything. You get imposter syndrome. I suck. You start talking negatively to yourself and you just go down this rabbit hole of like, I'm not good enough, new career, all these other people are better than me. But then you have to realize like, okay, you're having a bad day or having a bad game or whatever you want to call it. But you've had all these other times when you have done great. You have to look back and you can't compare yourself to a month ago. You have to compare yourself to last year, give yourself a bigger time frame, and also not compare yourself to others because others may have been doing it while you were working. You may have done it while after work. You may have had other stuff going on in the background that some people may not have at the time you're doing your hacking. Which brings me up to burnouts. I know you deal with burnouts a lot. I think we go through these cycles of, fuck bug bounties. Like, I'm burnt out. I'm tired of doing this shit every day. Do you still deal with it? How do you deal with it? What do you do to overcome burnouts?
Yeah, I think burnouts are interesting, right? It's you don't want to like go 100% of the time because you just literally can't. And if you can, I mean, you're just like a different breed. You're something else. There's some people who are like very good at that and they just do bug bounty full time and they love it. They eat, breathe, sleep bug bounty and
Hmm.
security, and that's like mad impressive. But there has to be a balance, right? I think there's like a certain point where you're no longer being efficient or effective. You're just kind of going through the motions just to make some money here and there. I don't think that's. I mean, for some people, that's what they want. They want that grind. But I think it's for me, it's more like the curiosity, hitting something that's interesting to me. Like I could be going through a burnout, or it's like I'm gonna take a break and go do something else. Like, maybe I want to play this game for this week. But then like someone will be like, "Hey, you want to hack on this?" And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds kind of interesting." And it's like no longer the burnout's no longer there. It's kind of just like you got to find the things that motivate you and go at it when you know um, you're motivated, I guess.
I think motivation. I think getting motivated is the hardest part of a burnout, right? Because you've hit these. I'm going through the burnout right now. It's been since Apple. Even with Apple, I struggled a lot. That I can't do it. I physically, mentally can't do it. And now every few days, I'll open up my laptop, try a few hours, and trying to get back in the routine. But I haven't had the feeling of wanting to do it for fun anymore. Until I find, I think it's until I find that target that is going to make it fun for me again to get back into. It's just getting that momentum back is all you need. You get a little bit of momentum, you start going harder and harder. It's the same thing with Apple. You know, we when we first started, it was just like we're doing it for fun. We found this bug. Oh, they just paid us how much? Like, whoa, this is how much they paid. Momentum was built. We all wanted to do more and more and
Yeah.
more.
I mean, even then, like that first payout was like a huge like maybe, right? It wasn't like guaranteed. It was like the
Hmm.
maybe, like the payout was unexpectedly high, and we're like, based on what the report was, we're like, well, were they paying out like a small amount times six because of like all the things we reported in there? So there was like 2 month a 2 month period there where we were just like, man, we're like hacking and we're finding stuff, but we don't know if we're gonna get paid for any of this. But I think what motivated us was like, hey, we're finding something. This is like a new frontier. Like no one's really looking here. We were kind of just like leaning on each other. But I think you're right. I think like with like your current burnout is it's opportunity, right?
Hmm.
A program will come along that will be intriguing to you and you're gonna hack on it, right? Like with Red Bull. It wasn't about the money, it wasn't about the Red Bull, it was just kind of like the novelty and the fun factor, right?
I think Red Bull was just solely the fact that, like, dude, Red Bull is doing it. I can hack Red Bull. I think we were trying to hack Red Bull before the bug bounty program was announced. I kept coming to you saying, hey, we should hack on Red Bull because I wanted to get a fridge so bad. And I found out that they don't
You
give you
wanted
a
that
fridge.
sponsorship.
Yeah, I realized that fridge is not going to happen until I'm like Ninja or something. But and then the bug bounty launch, you're like, okay, not only now there's a bug bounty program where we don't get in trouble for owning them, but they're now sending you Red Bull. And I just wanted to have a few boxes of, I don't even drink Red Bull. I think I would have probably hacked on Red Bull if they would have launched that program without any giveaways, just because of the fact that it was them and it was interesting. It kind of like hooked me into it again to kind of look and find some bugs. Um, let's talk about time time management. Are you good at it?
Yeah, work life balance and hacking balance and stuff is very interesting, right? Um, I do a full-time job. I've got
No.
2 kids. I'm married. I do consulting. I do bug bounty. I do puzzles. Um, it's a lot, and you can't do them all at once. It's literally impossible to chase your hobbies full time if you have like a lot of things going on. It's it kind of plays into like the whole burnout thing that you were just talking about. Is like I'll go like a couple quarters a year, like Q1, Q2, and maybe don't do bug bounty at all. Um, it's really just finding what you want to do and when you have the time to do it.
No.
And um, managing my time, not so much. You know me. I go to sleep at like 5, 6 a.m. every day. I mean, I make up my time by not sleeping.
Yeah, I think I've woken up to more messages from you guys at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. my time. And I'm like, dude, were you guys just not going to sleep? And you and like Ziot are 3 hours, 2 hours ahead of me sometimes. And I'm like, 3 a.m., you guys are still going strong. That's amazing. I need my 8 hours of sleep. Do you get 8 hours of sleep?
No, absolutely not. You kind of condition yourself to it after so many years, I suppose, but it's gonna catch up to me, right? Take advantage of it while I can.
So you don't have a, do you have a daily routine or no? Do you like follow a daily routine? Anything, just go with the flow?
Go with the flow. I mean, yeah, I've got a fairly flexible job, so I can kind of like I pick my projects and know when I need to go hard on them. Um, Bug bounty is opportunistic to me, so like, some sometimes I'm not even doing bug bounty. Sometimes I'm doing, 8 to 10 hours a day. Um, yeah, it's really just picking and choosing your battles.
Fair enough. Um, let's, what time is it? We've gone a little bit over time. I'm gonna wrap this up with one question. Before I jump into the viewers question, what is your advice to people that are watching this interview? Again, it's gonna go on YouTube. People that are gonna watch this later on. What is your advice for people that are just getting into bug bounties? They want to learn. They want to get better. What do you have to tell them?
Um, don't chase the money. As soon as you chase the money, you're gonna get frustrated and give up. Chase specific vuln types. Pick one vuln type, pick a few targets, and only focus on those targets in that vuln type. So if that's like, hey, I'm gonna hack Airbnb and I'm gonna look for XSS, only do that. Focus on that. Um, it's an uphill battle. There's a big steep learning curve to bug bounty. You can do it within a year. You can get really good at certain types of vulns within a year, but the first like 6 months are going to be painful. But once you start to like learn it, um, it's kind of like a curve that's going to start going straight up. Like it's going to be a lot easier. And as soon as you master one vuln, the rest are going to come way easier. Um, the money comes with you having fun. If you're not having fun and you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're going to burn out. You're not going to find things. You're going to get frustrated. You got to find a way to make it fun. And yeah, you find someone to hack with, man. I've been collaborating with Naham. I mean, I think he sent a message to me off chance 6 years ago because he read one of my write-ups or something, and we've been great friends ever since. Just finding someone to collaborate with is going to make a world of a difference. It's going to make learning easier. It's going to make the hacking more fun. And even if you're splitting the money, I mean, it still adds up. I mean, you're going to be finding twice as many things or more.
I think that since you brought up the collaboration between us, I think the thing that really made it fun for me and you was there was three things. One was just like the friendship that we built off of it. It was just like it was a new thing. It was hard to trust people. We agreed to a friend DA. It was over like Google Hangouts or some shit. And then number two was we decided right off the bat, hey man, like look, 50-50, no matter what we find, we go after these targets. We touch it together, we split the money together just to make it easier. So there was no bad blood of like, oh, I found this, you found this. And we were really open about it. This is how I found it. This is how I did it. And then the third thing of it was nobody else was doing this collaboration thing. Everyone was siloed, it felt like. Everyone was just so in it for themselves because there was money involved that it made it interesting for us to collaborate and want to learn from each other. So I think there's a tremendous value in just reaching out to people. For me, it was exactly what you said. I think it was a Facebook finding you did. And I was like, hey man, like I saw you found something on Facebook, and then I saw you on a private program that I was on. It was a gaming one. I was like, hey, what have you found? And then we just started sharing things. But find someone, reach out to people. Like you see someone on the same private program that you're on, they've found one bug, you haven't found anything. Reach out to them and be like, hey man, I want to collaborate with you. I think if it wasn't for me and you taking that chance to do this whole like, hey, let's just find bugs together, having fun together, and you made it a little bit competitive. It was always like, oh, you found the bug, and I love that about you, man. It was like, I found the bug. I gotta up you now. And it wasn't like an unhealthy way of it. It wasn't like, yeah, I want to show that I'm better. It was more of a, you did it. I would come to you and be like, hey, you carried me right now. The next program, I gotta carry us. And then keeping that balance and trying to make sure we both pull our weights was kind of what helped us and made it more enjoyable. So yeah, reach out to people. If you're watching this live right now, reach out to someone that you think has the same skill sets as you. Ask him respectfully. If I kind of push it with you, I was like, hey, we should hack together, until we did it and it paid off. Be persistent, but don't be annoying is the key word. Don't be too pushy. Test the waters. Make sure you have something to offer where you're going to benefit from it. I wanted to ask the questions that came in before we jump into our game. I'm going to put these on the screen right here. DJ Omer asked, let me put it right here. What vulnerability do you look for the most?
I'd say probably SSRFs. SSRF and then maybe XSS. I really try and focus on like the more critical server side issues. I know like XSS, like you can find them at scale. They're going to consume your time. Maybe you're going to find a bunch of XSS, but if someone finds one crit in the time that you found like 8 XSS, I mean, you're just almost to a point wasting your time.
Yeah.
And SSRFs are just a lot of fun. I think it became like a big thing. There's a lot of like interesting bypasses, the corporate structure between like internal prod environments and how you can use those SSRFs and like chains with them are just very interesting to me. Yeah, I'd go with that one.
What is there a weird or unexpected bug that you have found so far? That's coming from Flemish Hacker.
Man, that's a tough one. They're all unexpected, really. The weirdest one. I'm gonna have to go with the Apple one because that one's fresh on the mind, where we were able to bypass the was it like the manufacturing system or whatever, where it's like pressing forgot password logged us into an account. Was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Apple Bug Bounty strikes again.
Yeah.
Do you recommend people looking at the Apple Bug Bounty program?
I think so. They're massive. They pay a ton of money. It's insane. Some of the things we found, like you got Google and Facebook paying, I think they pay more than Google and Facebook for RCEs. And then the auth bypass, they paid like $100K, right? They just pay an absurd amount of money. And the vulns are out there. It hasn't been like completely picked over like Google and Facebook. Some of the things we were finding on Apple were just kind of like, we were shocked that they were there. Definitely worth some time.
And it's massive. You're absolutely right. There's so much to look at that I think there's going to be plenty of bugs for everybody to look at. There's still probably low-hanging fruit and idlers out there to look for. You just got to find the right application to go after. Let's jump in our fun game because we're a little bit over time. I know it's a little bit later for you. I want to make sure I respect your time. So the way it works, if you're not familiar, is I'm gonna ask you some questions. It's about your bug bounty experience. Then we're going to jump into the fun part when I give you a word, and you tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. Let me write some. I have a lot for you. I think this is gonna be a fun one. I have some really fun triggering ones for you. Let's start off with, what was the first bug bounty program you ever hacked on?
Facebook.
If you have to hack on one bug bounty program for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably Verizon Media.
Ooh, I was expecting Apple from you, but all right. What was your first bounty and what kind of bug was it? Do you remember?
Stored XSS on Facebook, $2,500. They paid someone else out originally. I challenged them because they turned it down, and it took over a year and a half for them to pay it.
Do you remember what you did with that bounty? Anything fun?
Bought a bottle of Blue Label.
You would.
Yeah.
Anything that bug bounties have made you accomplish? Like, is there any big accomplishments, or any? It doesn't have to be monetary. Anything that bug bounties have affected your life with, or how has bug bounties affected your life?
It's given me a platform, with like Twitter. I don't have as many followers as you, but even still, like just having the followers that I have and having a blog where I can talk about the things that are interesting to me, and being able to share that with other people has always been something super special to me.
Now, monetary wise, is there anything you have purchased solely because of Bug Bounties that you're super proud of?
This house, the house that I bought.
Are there any hackers you collaborate with regularly? Do you want to give a shout out to?
I'm gonna hurt some feelings if I do that, but obviously you, throwing it back, Smeagol's,
Oof.
Sam Irby, I gotta throw out there because Irby was one of my Puzzle DEF CON guys who I got into Bug Bounty, and now he's better than me. Lately, collaborating a lot with ZLZ, big fan of Sam Curry. Had a lot of fun collaborating with Franz and Matthias for a while. There's too many to name.
Are there any hackers you wish you would have collaborated with that you didn't? Like you haven't and you want to really collaborate with them?
I mean, anyone that I haven't collaborated with yet. I mean, I'm always looking for new people to hack with. The big one for me was Franz and Matthias. I was always very curious, and I finally got the opportunity to do that. So that was really exciting.
What's your favorite tool to use?
NetSquid.
What about? Let me think. There's one more, I think. Oh, give me some of your hobbies, man. I know you have some good hobbies, the ones that you want to share. Anything that's not computer related. I know you love video games. I know you're really, really good at Rainbow Six. What about other hobbies that are not computer related?
I got really into gardening with my wife. Now that we finally have land, gardening was a lot of fun. Let's see, puzzles, obviously, video game dev and video games. Non-computer is tough. Spend most of my time on the computer.
What are your favorite video games besides Rainbow Six? Spectre says good at Rainbow Six. All right.
Yeah, he's
All
just
right,
mad
Spectres.
at chess.
Math 'cause bad.
Yeah. What are my favorite video games? That's a loaded question, but I'd say right now, Rocket League is my go-to. It's casual, it's fun. I've been playing it for years.
Are you playing any other? Do you play any first-person shooters?
Yeah, I mean, we were playing a lot of Call of Duty recently, Rainbow Six. I played Counter-Strike most of my life. Played PUBG for years. I mean, it's just whatever people are playing at any given time. If they invite me, I'll play.
Rainbow Six gotta be. We gotta make a return. I know you guys are trying to make it a thing again. I gotta show up.
It is the thing. Yeah, it's just you. We're waiting on you.
I love how Spectre says, "Nahab, get back on Rainbow Six." All right, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna give you a word. There's a lot of them, dude, but I'm gonna give you a word. You tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. Let's start off with Sans because you brought this up early on. Could be a word. It could be a sentence.
I was just thinking like vacation, fun trip.
Let's talk about CTF.
Puzzle.
What about puzzles?
Cryptocurrency, because a lot of puzzles have been cryptocurrency lately.
DEF CON.
Friends and family.
What about the black badge?
I kind of want to say like pride, happiness. I don't know.
All right. H1 2012, not 2012. My God, these new naming conventions are throwing me off. H1 212. I can't even do it anymore. New York City one. Yep, that's the one.
Oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, 212. It's like an unforgettable moment, dude. Legit, great moment in my life.
H1415, the first one with Airbnb and Shopify.
Fucking frustration, dude. Just mad frustration.
You know, that's the first time we actually met in person.
Yeah. Cause I skipped out on Vegas, the Vegas event. That's right. Yeah, that was a fun trip.
Which brings me up to H1702. That's the next one I'm going to ask you.
Is that Vegas?
Yeah, that's Vegas.
Just tiring. that week in Vegas is just so tiring.
Let's talk about collaboration. What's the first
Oh wait,
one?
I got to throw another one out there. The golden nugget, dude. That's what I think of.
John, I hope you're watching this, man. I hope you're in here. Collaboration.
I'm just gonna throw ZLZ out there because I've just been collaborating with ZLZ nonstop for the past like few months.
What about Recon?
Recon.dev.
Apple.
Kitchen remodel. They're paying for my kitchen remodel.
John says never forget Golden Nugget.
That's true. That was a fun time.
HackerOne.
Life changing. Life
Hacking events.
Friends and family again. Just friends and family. I miss them all.
Rainbow Six.
Frustration. I gotta get good. It's not like riding a bike, dude. I'm so bad.
All right, so you mentioned a few hackers. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna give you names of hackers. You tell me the first thing that pops into your head. I'll start off with the OG Alcoholics group we used to have.
Yeah, Skype. It just makes me think of Skype.
Let's start with Smeagol's.
MacBook Pro. When he walked me through Amsterdam. God.
Do you want to tell that story really quickly?
He lives in the area when we flew out to Amsterdam, and he was going to be my tour guide for the day. So we walked around, and after an hour, he walked me into.
He wanted you to buy a MacBook Pro. That's yeah.
Yeah, he's been trying to get me to buy a MacBook for years. Cause I'd bring just like this Asus PC laptop to all the events, and yeah, after showing me around, he walked me into an Apple store.
All right, let's talk about the next one. ZLZ.
A legend, dude. He's legendary.
Irby Sam.
Smartest guy I know.
I'm gonna throw Spectres in there.
Bad at chess.
Oh my god. I'm gonna throw myself in there. Nahamsek.
Best bud.
It's been a while, man. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
I think that's everybody. Oh, Matthias and Franz, because I know you collaborate with them both. Let's do Matthias first.
Oh, I take it back. He's the smartest guy I know. He's like he's like legit the smartest guy I've ever met.
What about Franz Rosen?
He's just a legend. He's the Franz Rosen, right? I don't know. Nothing like comes to mind other than just like the legend, the Bug Bounty legend.
Well, hey man, I just wanted to say I seriously appreciate you coming on this show. I know we spammed you a lot, and I want to say I apologize for spamming you on Twitter a number of times just to get you here. I know that the homies have been very persistent just to get your attention to come on here. But thank you so much, and I want to say thank you for being a great fan, man. It's been an honor to get to know you, work with you, and hack and get to hang out and play video games, and then having you on here as a guest has been very, very cool. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man. It's a lot of fun. I know. Like I said, antisocial, but I'm glad I finally did it.
I appreciate you, man. Well, I look forward to working with you and seeing more of your work in the future.
All right. Peace out, man.
See ya. What a legend. As you can't tell, I was fanboying a lot of time on the stream because of the fact that I'm not only he's a friend of mine, but also I'm a big fan of his. And he's been one of the most influential people that I've met through Bug Bounties. And by influential, I mean on me. That's what influenced me personally on a personal level, on a professional level, on a Bug Bounty level, skill sets, whatever you want to call it. He's been a great friend, and it's always really, really cool to have your friends join you on the streams. But it is about 1:30, and I am kind of tired now, chat. Should we raid? What are we doing? Should we raid? Should we hack? I don't think I have any more hacking in me anymore to want to do more. But I do want to raid if there's anybody new doing some ethical hacking, but I don't see anybody. Let's look. Chat, throw somebody in here if you want me to raid them. I don't see anybody doing much on hacking, unfortunately. I have interviewed Franz. If you want to watch this interview, it's on YouTube. Go ahead and head over to my YouTube channel. Just type in Franz Rosen Nahumsik. It should come up. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, right there. I'll send you the link in the chat. It's a great interview if you want to watch it. Here's the link. Raid Abracadabra? Who is that are you trolling or is that a real person? Abracadabra is doing what? Why? Alright. That's it for me. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out. I'll be back online more than likely tomorrow. If I don't, I'll make sure to tweet it out. If you don't follow me already on social media, I'm at Nahumsik on Instagram, Twitter. You can see the link right here. You should follow me so you can get updates on whenever I post my content. And yeah, I'll be online tomorrow. Be safe. Don't catch the Rona. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. And come hang out with me on Discord. I'm out. See you tomorrow.